It was important for Operation Hope to partner with FICO on this event, which is really it's called Score Better, but really is about understanding how the score is measured in the world. This is about the language of money, or what I call in my last book, the memo. If yesterday was defined by civil rights, then today's defined by civil rights. And financial literacy is a new civil rights issue for our generation. If you don't know better, you can't do better. And to quote Ambassador Young, who was with Dr. King on that fateful day when he was assassinated as he pursued poverty, to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the definition of slavery. So if you don't know better, you can't do better. And it's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. So if financial literacy is a new civil rights issue in a civil rights era, then a credit score, a FICO score, is the new right to vote. Because half of Americans, well, half of African Americans have a credit score below 620. That doesn't sound dramatic until you recognize that you can't get a small business loan below 700. You can't get a decent mortgage below 650. So really, you've got half of African Americans with PhDs and advanced degrees and smart people and driving around in fancy cars and they have fancy jobs, making six figures. I'm not talking about poor people. I'm talking about everybody who are locked out of the free enterprise system. Half of all employers will check your credit before they'll hire you. Half. So I'm not saying credit scores are everything, but I am saying that credit scores is something I can measure, I can manage, and I can empower myself with, where I can't define how you treat me or how you feel about me. But if I raise my credit score, or if I help a client raise a credit score from 580 to 620, a 40-point increase, which we can do by correcting an error on their credit score, their self-esteem goes up, their confidence goes up, their belief in themselves, their trust in the system, their trust in banking, their hope for the future. All the lights come on. And if I can get you to 700, well, there's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in all of America's history of any race. So the new color really is green. Yeah, so Hope Inside is my vision to finish what Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln started. So in 1865, Abraham Lincoln, after the Civil War, created a bank called the Freedmen's Bank. March 3rd, 1865, chartered to teach free slaves about money. Nobody knows about it because Lincoln was killed the next month. Frederick Douglass tried to run it. And we know Frederick Douglass to be an abolitionist. I know him to be a businessman. He owned $6 million worth of real estate in Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., and rented that real estate out to working class African Americans. That financial freedom allowed him the flexibility to go become an abolitionist and a civil rights leader. If you think about Andrew Young, Ambassador Andrew Young, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., all those heroes and sheroes, John Lewis, they were all middle class. Their parents had done well. That allowed them to have an education, to have freedom, financial freedom, to go pursue their civil rights. So really, civil rights gave way to civil rights. But we weren't taught the language of money. We weren't given the memo. That bank failed in 1874 by no fault of our own. So it really was 100 years later than Dr. King took up the mantle of financial literacy with the Poor People's Campaign and poverty eradication. Then he was killed before the first march. So what inspires me and has caused me to commit to open 1,000 Hope Inside locations is, it was not like we got the memo on free enterprise and capitalism and credit scores and opportunity and we screwed it up. We just never got the memo. So I've committed to finish what Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass started. I'm going to open ultimately 1,000 Hope Inside locations inside of bank branches, grocery stores, big box retailers, houses of faith, government offices, where people flock, stop, and shop. We're going to become the private banker to the working poor, the struggling class, and the struggling middle class. And we're going to become the Starbucks of financial inclusion. And I believe that by making this regular in people's life, by integrating it into our communities, by making it something that we normally do, the shame goes away, the sense of failure disappears, We start understanding the rules of the game, how the game is played. I mean, if your day is not about God or love, your day is about money. And all of our problems are in a 580 credit score neighborhood. I'm sorry, a 500 credit score neighborhood. That's where all the homicides are, the dropout rate is, that's where the crime is, that's where the drugs are, that's where the depression levels are through the roof, is where you have low levels of small business creation. So if we can just get the FICO score up 120 points, I know it sounds really simple, community by community, block by block, family by family, you literally change the world. And other places in the world might use something other than a credit score. I've been to 100 countries and people measure differently, but essentially we are ahead of the game. We have, and African Americans here have done more. I mean, this is for everybody, but today is an African American really focused event, if you want to call it that. And so I'm going to speak to this one community that really African Americans have been the most prosperous, most successful people in the world of color. But we're at risk of having it all fall away because we don't understand this game. And so we're being swallowed up by student loan debt, swallowed up by consumer credit cards, swallowed up by thinking that middle class is a leased car and a rented apartment building and a nice wardrobe. Not. And so we've got to become owners and stakeholders, and you cannot do that without understanding your FICO score. You cannot. I think that people are challenged about understanding their FICO score and their financial health in general because money intersects with emotions and self-esteem. So oftentimes people will shop when they don't feel good about themselves. It's, retail therapy. They will eat when they don't feel good about themselves. Last time I checked, food costs money. They will do things that are almost putting confidence on top of themselves without understanding that self-esteem comes from inside of yourself. So real wealth has nothing to do with money. And in fact, if you have spiritual wealth, you'll never be poor. If you don't have spiritual wealth, all the money in the world will not save you. So I think there's a lot of discomfort, dis-ease with all of our own somebodiness. And we work around that with addictions, which include spending money, popping bottles in a club, or popping a credit card at a mall. And then when we wake up from that dream, it's too late. Dr. King said, I have a dream, and I think I would say, I'd revise that, and I'd say the best way to start living your dream is start by waking up. And then Dr. Dorothy Height, who's a mentor of mine, said she liked our work because we were dreamers with shovels in our hands. I think that what we do is try to tell people there's no shame in this game, that you can make a mistake and not be a mistake, that you can screw up and you're not a screw up, that rainbows only follow storms, that everybody makes mistakes. So what? Pick up, brush yourself off. They use me as an example. I was homeless for 6 months of my life when I was 18 years old. I almost filed bankruptcy a couple times before I was 20. I had a 500 credit score. Now I have a American Express Black Card and a credit score that's well over 700. I'm an entrepreneur, so I can't get it at 800 and keep it there because I got Operation Hope on my back. But my mother's credit score is 840, or something like that. It's unbelievable. My mother's not black; she's green. But the reality is, my mother can get anything she wants, anything, right? And it doesn't matter whether somebody likes her, doesn't like her, whether. Quincy Jones once said, not 1 ounce of my self-worth or self-confidence depends on your acceptance of me. And we've got to get to a point where we love ourselves first. No one can love you unless you love yourself first. And when you love yourself, you take care of yourself. And part of taking care of yourself is your financial health. It's health, wealth, and financial wealth. It's really that simple. And we want to be that check-in station. Hope inside, literally, hope inside. And we're also, with regard to banks, banks won't tell you, but when you walk in the front door, they know that you are not going to be approved. They pull your credit report. They pull that credit report, and they can see right there your credit score is too low for you to get that mortgage or whatever it is you're dreaming about. By the way, you can be the nicest person in the world, go to church every Sunday, be gracious, kind, give to charity, and still not get a loan for small business because it has nothing to do with how kind you are. But they can't tell you, or they won't tell you because they're afraid of being sued by you or whomever for discrimination. So they let you go through the entire application process, knowing full well you won't be approved. My people sit 10 feet from that banker. But my people are paid by me, not the bank. Right. So my folks can say, Guerrero, that credit report is like a bus accident. What's that? I don't know. Great. That's called an error. Let us challenge that. So no one's doing this. We do it for free. Let's send a note to the credit bureaus. The law states that the credit bureaus cannot confirm that within 30 days. They must remove it. Once they remove it, and it gets removed 95% of the time, that's a 40-point pop in your credit score.
Right.
So literally you're going from 580 to 620.
Right.
And as I said earlier, what happens to your self-esteem, your confidence, your belief in yourself? All the lights come on. Then now the person says, okay, great, this is fantastic. Oh, well, I got to win. What else can I do? The minute you say, what else can I do? We got you.
Yeah.
Because now you've just taken your life back. And we say, okay, well, what's this other thing? Oh, I had a divorce 10 years ago and I didn't pay the phone bill. I couldn't afford $1,000 for that phone bill. No problem. SBC was bought by Pac Bell. Pac Bell was bought by AT&T. AT&T chased you. They then sold that to Joe's Finance Company. Joe's Finance Company chased you. They wrote it off and they sold it to Jack's Finance Company for 5 cents on the dollar. They want 50 bucks. Well, they bought it for 50 bucks. They want 100. So we call and negotiate with the finance company, and we offer them oftentimes double what they're looking for. In this case, it's 200 bucks, because we want them to cooperate and work with you as we write letters to the credit bureaus to say that you paid as agreed. So now you got an 80% discount, and the company got a 200% profit. Fair exchange, no robbery. Everybody wins, and your credit report goes up another 30 points. So now, I mean, that FICO score is at this point of our lives a measurement on your ability to achieve and to aspire and to succeed. It affects everything. You have a crappy FICO score, you may be paying 18% for an auto loan, which means it's not an auto loan, it's an auto bomb. If you have a 680 or 700 credit score, you're paying 1 or 2% for that same auto loan, night and day. And you mean at 18 to 20% of interest rate, you'll never pay that car loan off.
No, you're paying forever. So they win, you don't win.
Absolutely, and I want you to win. Operation Hope and FICO wants you to win. I want you to understand the rules of this game so that you can not just play it, so you can master it.
So you can master the game. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.